Tilt down sikit. Tilt down.
Habis tengah habis. Up.
Tak record. Record tak?
Tengok mesin sikit dulu.
Borak sikit baby.
Borak.
Borak.
Mesin dulu kan.
Close up screen. Close up screen. Slow.
Pandang.
Stop.
Dansa sikit, dansa. Tadi mampu.
Okey, soalan.
Tangan YB dia bocor ni. Tangan YB ada tisu.
Jalan.
Okey dah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Terima kasih kepada rakan media yang bersama-sama pada hari ini untuk kita meneruskan meluaskan lagi pelaksanaan Inisiatif Pendapatan Rakyat di tempat-tempat awam. Jadi saya berterima kasih kepada Pusat, Perubatan, Universiti Menara, PPUM, Dr. Nazirah, pengarah ada di sini. Kerana menjadi hospital yang pertama yang tampil, kerana tujuan kita ialah untuk memastikan juga kemudahan ini ada di tempat-tempat awam termasuk hospital. Selalunya tuntutan kepada makanan siap yang berharga rendah ini, tuntutan yang paling tinggi adalah di tempat-tempat yang ramai orang seperti kampus dan juga hospital. Untuk PPUM, saya berterima kasih juga kepada pengurusan PPUM kerana bekerjasama dengan Kementerian Ekonomi untuk menyaring dan memilih dari kalangan kaki tangan PPUM sendiri yang memenuhi kriteria B40 dan ini satu peluang tambahan untuk meningkatkan pendapatan bulanan. Jadi penerima ada di sini dan insya-Allah model ini kita akan perluaskan di hospital-hospital lain dengan kerjasama Kementerian Kesihatan selepas. Sedikit maklum balas mengenai kemajuan pelaksanaan IPR insan, kerana yang paling dapat banyak permintaan ialah insan. Kita ada sekitar 10,000 orang menunggu mesin. Cuma 100 mesin yang pertama telah pun melalui proses perolehan itu, dan insyaAllah akan diselesaikan dalam bulan Jun ini. You will see more dekat MRT station dan sebagainya lah. Kita juga telah melalui proses perolehan untuk 4,900 mesin yang seterusnya, kerana sasaran pada tahun ini ialah 5,000 mesin di seluruh negara. Jadi yang selalu ialah yang kurang berpuas hati selalunya ditanya, dia kata ini adalah satu trik untuk buat duit. Kerana selalu ditanya siapa yang akan mendapat kontrak menyediakan mesin ini kan. Sebab itu proses itu mengambil masa, kerana kita kena melalui perolehan secara terbuka. Jadi Kementerian Kewangan telah meluluskan perolehan seterusnya, iaitu untuk menjemput semua syarikat-syarikat yang layak dan berkemampuan untuk menyediakan 4,900 mesin yang seterusnya. So in terms of our timeline, we are confident we will be able to match the planning this year, which is 5,000 machines deployed to 5,000 penerima all over the country by end of the year lah. Cuma saya berharap pemohon-pemohon yang masih menanti itu supaya bersabar sedikit, kerana we cannot cut corners when it comes to perolehan and procurement lah. We have to follow through the process, and the process now is that it's open tender. We are waiting for vending companies to come forward and bid. Sedikit maklumat mengenai kesan IPR ini kepada industri vending machine. Kerajaan tidak membeli vending machine ini. Jadi risiko ditanggung bersama oleh kerajaan yang mengusahakan supaya penerima-penerima ini dapat mengusahakan vending machine. Risiko kewangan sebenarnya juga ditanggung oleh syarikat-syarikat. So that's why I hope the public understands it is not easy to instantly deploy this, because kerajaan hanya membayar sewa bulanan, dan itu pun hanya untuk 2 tahun. On the basis that after 2 years, the penerima itu would have had a steady monthly income generating activity that will be able to rent the vending machine on their own after 2 years. We just provide the facility in the beginning. Jadi modal selalunya untuk mengeluarkan satu vending machine ini, kalau ikut harga pasaran, ia dijual pada harga RM30,000, RM40,000 satu. Jadi modal itu paling kurang pun RM20,000 lebih. Modal ini perlu dikeluarkan oleh syarikat-syarikat vending machine. It's not by government. Because government only provides that 2 years guarantee of rent, because we want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We want to make sure that this more modern and sustainable small business model can be extended to low-income families, because otherwise they have to fork out 30,000 to 40,000 and they have to source for the location, everything on their own, and it's going to be very difficult for them. But at the same time, we want to scale up the demand of vending machines, because that will assist the vending machines industry to grow. And we know the vending machines industry, while it doesn't look sexy as semiconductor, is the first entry point for IoT industry in this country, because each company would require some IoT engineers, some software engineers, before we talk about flying cars and so on, it's a lot easier to cultivate the skill workforce in IoT through the vending machines industry. But the government has to help grow the demand. So that's the whole idea about IPR for the vending machine. It will take time, tetapi kita juga sedar bahawa negara perlu beralih daripada model lama yang frontliners kita banyak bergantung kepada pekerja asing. And society also has to slowly get used to whatever we have to buy from machine ourselves, so that businesses don't have to employ frontliners. That is something that we have to do in slow march bits and pieces, because eventually we can't afford forever to pay for frontliners, especially if those frontliners we have to source from foreign workers. So the next deployment after the first 100 will be after kita selesai dengan proses perolehan. Proses perolehan untuk 4,900 mesin yang seterusnya, insya-Allah akan selesai dalam tempoh 1 bulan lebih lagi. We are still waiting for the bidders now. Dia telah dibuka minggu lepas. Jadi sebab itu, untuk kita mempercepatkan the identification and onboarding of locations, because there are two sides of it. Satu ialah the machine itself. Secondly is the location owner has to come forward. So for us to match this, we will open invitation for any location, any business to offer their location for vending machine. So hopefully we can start going beyond government and public locations after this in the next 6 months. Ada soalan?
Yeah, the 100 that have been manufactured by a company, so that will be the test pilot. And this 100, who's renting it?
Government is renting it. I mean, the model is the same. The model is the same, which is kalau dahulu bantuan kerajaan ialah kepada penerima skim begini untuk membeli peralatan berniaga. Jadi masing-masing akan memilih lah. Dia akan kata, saya nak gerai burger, saya nak ice box untuk buat kari pak beku dan sebagainya kan. Tapi our diagnosis of the previous approach, getting barang itu is just the first step. It's actually the easiest step. Yang lebih susah untuk memastikan aktiviti menjana pendapatan itu berkekalan ialah perkara-perkara yang berkaitan dengan perniagaan. Contohnya lokasi. Kalaupun dia dapat dapur memasak, tapi kalau dia tak ada gerai yang baik, dan dia tak jalan juga. And then dia nak dapat gerai, kemudian dia kena cari lesen, dia kena jadi our diagnosis banyak yang gagal itu kerana bantuan itu hanya dalam bentuk peralatan saja. The rest tu penerima ni kena pandai-pandai sendiri. That's why melalui IPR we change the approach yang semuanya diberikan secara bersepadu, iaitu when they get the vending machine, sumbangan itu sama macam mereka dapat peralatan lah. Sebab itu kita spread the 20,000 plus. Kalau sebelum ini RM20,000 itu diberikan, dia pun belilah. Dia beli peti ais lah, inilah, dia kata dia nak berniaga. After that it doesn't work kan. Now that 15 to 20,000 tu kita spread over 2 years dalam bentuk bayaran kepada vending machine, because the vending machine already represents everything in one program. Mereka akan dapat peralatan, mereka juga akan dapat pemasaran, because basically the marketing is done by the program lah. Once you get a good location and once people know this vending machine is for penerima IPR, the marketing is already being done. Sama juga dia membolehkan kita memantau prestasi dengan lebih baik. Kalau dulu bagi peralatan saja, lepas tu apa nak jadi tu, there's no means for us to track. Now we actually track on daily basis how much each one dapat, because there's a back end to this. Kementerian boleh check satu-satu mesin ni dekat mana berapa. So we know yang mana dapat pendapatan yang lebih tinggi, yang mana kurang, so that we can then follow up and intervene kan. Jadi dari segi itu model itu sama, cuma untuk yang pertama 100 mesin yang pertama, yang itu memang untuk pilot. Jadi kita telah melalui proses fast track procurement. But for just to make sure the pilot works and to roll it out. Sebab kalau kita nak tunggu terus 5,000 and we do it at one go, there was a fear in the beginning that unless you do a pilot first, tengok-tengok tak jadi, tengok-tengok orang tak beli daripada mesin, then problem juga. Government dah commit through open tender, lepas tu bila you deploy orang tak beli, then what happens to all these machines lah. So we've gone through that process. We've tested 10, we know it's working. We know that consumer behavior receive this wholeheartedly. We know that it's also a function of location. The ones that get very good location, in fact, they should be getting into M40 within a month, because some of the daily sales tu dalam 400-500 ringgit sehari. That's almost like 10,000 ringgit per month. Kemudian profit margin is about 50%. So they get additional net income around 4,000, 5,000, and a lot of them sebenarnya seperti juga penerima dekat sini. A lot of them sebenarnya this is additional income. Dia tak quit dia punya kerja. Dia kerja seharian macam biasa. Cuma every now and then dia akan pergi and dia akan top up lah kan. So that model it will continue for the rest of the machines.
Okay, this who's will supply the food? Is that
Penerima.
they will put in their own food.
Yes.
So all the 5,000 vending machines, there will be different kind of
Yes.
menu.
Yes.
It's up to them.
It's up to them, but we do provide, because we monitor. Sekarang mudahlah ada 10 kan, and then 100. We'll have to see how we're going to monitor the next all 5,000, because pegawai kita monitor sebenarnya prestasi setiap peniaga itu, dan kita akan bagi cadangan dekat dia. I think you need to change your menu sedikit. You need to tukar timing of your stocking, sebab all this data are available. So this is the concept. Dia tak berbeza dengan program bantuan kerajaan sebelum-sebelum ini. Bezanya ialah sebelum ini kerajaan bagi dia peralatan saja. Dia memang kena keluarkan modal dia untuk beli bahan mentah, buat makanan dan sebagainya. Tapi with that, without the location, without the marketing, then they can't survive. So what we do now is like they focus purely on their strength, and their strength is sediakan makanan tu. And we calculated enough the margin. We know sebenarnya untuk bahan makanan, even for nasi lemak dan sebagainya, even if you sell at RM3, sebab semuanya telah pun ditanggung ataupun dah masuk dalam vending machine, utility dah masuk, gaji pekerja tak ada, everything dah masuk. Sebenarnya even at RM3, the profit margin is about 50%. So that's why mereka boleh menyediakan makanan dan masih lagi menjual dalam harga range of price that we fix, which is it must be between 2 to 5. So they will have a variety. Ada yang RM2, ada yang RM5. That's the business knowledge that they will pick up as they go along, managing their own vending machine lah.
YB, on the removal of subsidies for T20s, some economists are saying, please spell out the income categories first before you bring subsidies for T20. What do you plan?
No, okay. policy will move from B40, M40 to T20. So I think all this discussion about removal of subsidies for T20 ni, after a while is redundant because we've launched PADU, and which is a centralized government centralized socio-economic database for household. Even when I was in opposition, I pointed out that the categorization of T20, M40, B40 by now is meaningless because it's just a statistical splitting. Dasar-dasar kerajaan sebelum ni dia tengok dasarkan B40, M40, T20 dan dia tidak berlaku adil kerana dia tidak mengambil banyak lagi faktor-faktor lain, faktor berapa orang anak, faktor lokasi kerja, faktor perjalanan ke tempat kerja, all this tak masuk langsung kan. Sebab itu kerajaan beralih kepada pendekatan net disposable income. Maksudnya kita tengok berapa pendapatan, kemudian kita ambil kira semua faktor-faktor lain. Anak berapa, tanggungan, kemudian bekerja di mana. So once that is completed and it will go live by January 2024, it will allow us to decide based on index. Contohnya kita kata kalau pendapatan boleh belanja, net disposable income di Lembah Kelang, minimum dia ialah katakanlah 2,200. Anything below 2,200 perlukan bantuan kerajaan. So then you channel this towards those people. So then we can do a banding based on net disposable income. It's no longer about T20, M40, B40 kan. So people who may be on the lower threshold of T20 now. Contohnya dia mungkin gaji 10,500 tapi anak 5 duduk di Kuala Lumpur. Actually once you take into account semua tanggungan dia, sebenarnya of course lah dia net disposable income is not that much different than maybe B40. In the current in the previous approach, these people were completely cut off from any assistance. In the next approach, what we are working on, we will minimize that kind of exclusion error kerana we will have visibility of their actual tanggungan di peringkat household. Cuma I do understand there will people are asking all this and that. This cannot happen in 1 week. And it will go on stages. But that's why we focus on data first. The last 6 months, kita dah melalui satu proses yang kita berjaya meyakinkan semua agensi kerajaan untuk berkongsi data dalam satu pangkalan data bersepadu. I suppose to the public it doesn't mean anything, but the reason why semua ini tak boleh dibuat sebelum ini kerana benda tu tak pernah dibuat. The previous administration couldn't get all the government agencies to agree to share data, and we've done it kan. Jadi cuma again seperti juga IPR, we have to do the pilot test. And the next 6 months is to do the pilot test and to move daripada static data yang kita ada sekarang. Sekarang ni kita ada static data. Maksudnya agensi akan bagi data untuk setiap 3 bulan sekali, and then DOSM compile, and then we have the level of net disposable income untuk setiap household tu untuk masa itu. By January 2024 is going to be a live real-time data. Maksudnya kalau berubah saja di Kementerian Pendidikan, berapa ada murid yang baru daripada keluarga itu masuk sekolah, automatic dia akan reflect di dalam PADU. And we want PADU to be operating on real-time basis for us to do this kan. And once we have that kan, sebenarnya how much kita nak bagi kepada siapa, itu sebenarnya bergantung kepada kemampuan kerajaan, how much we want to allocate, and that's going to happen next year kan. Jadi saya rasa tak I understand people are worried tanya T20, M40, what are the details semua ni. But certain things that we are doing is a major pivot daripada pendekatan yang lepas, and we have to make sure that all the infrastructure are in place. Then we have to pilot test dulu. Then we will decide based on this what are the levels yang net disposable income level yang akan mendapat bantuan, you know. Di peringkat kerajaan, di M10 contohnya minggu ini, kita sudah mula bincang dah the simulation of who should get what. What are the approach? Are you going to give universal child assistance? Are you going to give an income top up? Jadi perkara-perkara itu sudah dibincangkan, and I think by next year you will see the transition daripada blanket subsidy and this T20, M40, B40 ni slowly will be phased out, and we will roll out one after another a consolidated social assistance based on net disposable income of a household.
Would that be a new session?
So hang on.
What do you think about Kumar Swift's comments on Masa comment yesterday?
Sorry?
Kumar Swift, the CEO of Bursa,
Okay.
he said that your comment about the future of Bursa doesn't look so good. So what's your opinion on this?
The discussion at the highest level has acknowledged that the makeup of our counters and companies dekat bursa must reflect the promise of the future. Kalau kita tengok kepada kaunter-kaunter utama yang membentuk indeks di bursa, we have to accept kebanyakan daripada mereka, contohnya 40% are banks, financial services, kan. Dan yang lain tu sebahagiannya ada juga property, sebahagiannya peladangan, kan. Jadi we have to ask ourselves, if we were to improve the performance of bursa, we have to follow and meet especially international portfolios managers' expectations. So what are the kind of businesses that give them a better future return? Satu, they are looking for more green content. Second, they are looking more for tech and energy transition business, because this promise more growth in the future. They are looking for size as well. It means that portfolio investors are no longer satisfied with just steady growth. We can, a Malaysian company can be giving 5% return every year, 8% return. Tapi while that is stable, portfolio investors are looking for growth prospect, and the growth prospect are usually the ones with high economic content, high value content, more green related, more energy transition related. So I think that assessment is well accepted within our economy. What we have to manage is how long do we take before we can push more and more of our public listed companies to adopt or to pivot to this kind of activities, so that they become more attractive to international portfolio managers. That's the bit that my ministry are trying our best. For example, that's why we focus on energy transition and tech, because we need more of the new ones, but we also need existing companies listed in Bursa to embrace all this. The higher ESG compliance they have, the higher green economy component they have in their activity, the more attractive they are to portfolio managers. And that's, I think, what we are doing differently than before. Before this, I think, I don't know, every time we talk about Bursa, sometimes, I don't know, maybe Menteri doesn't want to admit. We have to admit that the makeup of our economy has to keep pace with the demands of international portfolio managers, because we are competing with other emerging markets. And if they are running faster than us, and their companies and enterprises offer better growth potential in the future, because investing in equity stock is actually not about the past, it's about the future. After all, it's about PE ratio, price earning, and anything in the future. So it's about what growth prospect in the right sector that can promise the right returns that they want. So companies kita bukan besar, but as far as portfolio managers are concerned, why should I go there if another country is showing better promise for their future, because they are already going into that and they are already showing results, kan? Jadi I think while there are short-term measures and interventions, there are rules and incentives that we can work out to make our equities on Bursa more attractive to portfolio managers. We cannot run from that assessment that we have to change the makeup of our economy. And the makeup of the economy must convey the promise of the future, not the success of the past. So I will repeat that, and I think it's uncomfortable, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge for the government. It's also for us to do all the necessary things to push this structural reform. That's why I keep talking about structural reform, because we can't be doing the same thing over and over. In much the same way, but what we talk about vending machine, I know there's a lot of criticism in the beginning, but those are structural reforms, because people have to change their behavior. Our small traders have to change the way we do things. Daripada before this jual gerai sama for the last 30 years, we now adopt technology, we move because it's more efficient. So likewise, at all levels of the economy, including those big companies in Bursa, we must adopt this challenge. Government must put all our efforts to push the economy towards some of these high growth, high value sectors, and I hope our largest and the largest companies, the Bursa, also take up the challenge. Only then we can convince international portfolio managers that we are a regional leader that offers the growth for the future. And it was in that context was my comment about Bursa lah.
Okay, coming back. Are you saying that the future there won't be any more T20 fixed threshold, but it will be a more dynamic one? So are we doing away with the thresholds, income thresholds?
No. The income threshold is a statistical. It's just a statistical number, You take a set of number. Katakanlah di PPUM ada 200 orang doktor. You then plot their salary, kan? Memanglah daripada 200 orang set of data tu, you then cut off 40 yang 40% yang gaji paling rendah. They become B40. 40 yang gaji persen yang seterusnya dia become M40 and T20. So this sama macam kuartal. You can decide first quartile, second quartile, third quartile, kan? Jadi it's just one of the ways for us to look at income in this country statistically. So it's not about whether you want to do away ke tidak. I mean the statistics are that statistic.
T20 will every time kita buat household income survey every 2 years, memang kita akan tahu apa median salary dia, apa T20 salary dia The shift, Martin, is this. Kalau dulu kerajaan menggunakan sepenuhnya this simple statistical split to formulate public policy, we are doing away with that. Because we understand enough that it's just a statistical split. It doesn't really reflect the actual reality of a household. Before this, it was oleh kerana banyak kekangan, data tak ada lah, data tak boleh nak combine lah. Sebab tu dia just ambil senang saja. Kita ambil income, split. Siapa yang B40 dapat bantuan, siapa ni tak dapat kan. We know there's a lot of pitfalls. Kalau dia split B40 dekat 4,800, those people yang 5,000 tapi ada 5 orang anak, tiba-tiba dia tak dapat bantuan. Padahal sebenarnya they deserve more than those B40 yang bujang. So while the T20, M40, B40 itu will remain a statistical benchmark every 2 years out of household income survey, we will rely less and less on that, and more on net disposable income approach, because now we have PADU to assist us to do this. Okay.
Thank you.
Tengok, nanti jap. Saya ada soalan. Padu sebenarnya sudah ada. Maksudnya kita sudah ada maklumat yang penuh mengikut isi rumah. Yang kita sedang bangunkan sehingga ke Januari ialah untuk memastikan data itu adalah dalam real time. Supaya kalau ubah di satu agensi, dia tunjuk terus dekat padu kan. Itu yang 6 bulan akan datang. Dengan maklumat sedia ada dengan padu sekarang, dia sudah pun boleh membantu kerajaan dengan simulasi asas untuk kita menimbangkan bagaimanakah cara terbaik untuk kita mensasarkan subsidi. So the data is adequate now for us to run through foundational simulations for us to decide. And once it's coming live with real time in January, then we hope that we will be able to implement the cash transfer to or whatever manner that government decides to consolidate social assistance, then we can implement it smoothly. So if your question is how we're going to allocate that process to evaluate, test different means to minimize exclusion error, to make sure that it is as equitable as possible, my opinion is the data that we have at Padu now for each household is adequate for us to run those and to validate government policies at this stage. Well, we have to discuss and we have to see the government's decision. Because my job dekat Kementerian Ekonomi and my team is basically we work on policy that we think can reform the structure of the economy, but cabinet has to agree. And because we may be gung-ho in this way or that way because we are pushing for change in the structure, but we also have to take into account what other ministries and what other stakeholders think about it. Jadi I don't want to approach macam dulu. Maksudnya dapat keputusan dulu, lepas tu baru sibuk nak buat. Dan itu yang dia tak jadi tu. So what we do is that we get early indication, this is where we are going, and usually this is dekat M10. Then that allows us to proceed dulu to prepare everything and to go deeper into the implementation, into the modelling. Then we go back to cabinet and say, okay, based on the direction itu, we've done the work and we think if we do this, this is how much it will cost, this is apa akan dapat, this is the exclusion error, and then eventually government